All right, y'all. What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Tay, and I'm here with a video to kind of give my last minute thoughts, likes, dislikes about Arc Raiders. Um, Initially, this was going to kind of be one of those, typical, um, like I did the last YouTube video, right? It's gonna sit there, uh, edit it up, chop up, do all the extra stuff, but time constraint. Um, Considering that the game launches here in less than 12 hours, I just want to go ahead and roll this out, right? Kind of get off my last minute thoughts and stuff. Plus, there's been a load of information that's kind of been pouring out from a lot of the bigger content creators. They've had some early access, first hands on preview type shit. So, shout out to them. Hopefully one day, we'll be big enough to be able to gain that type of access too. But we got to get through these small steps, man, and get kind of consistent in our own right with how we, work this process out. So, all right, the first things first, right? I wanted to talk about, the Server Slam, a lot of the changes they've made, that we've seen, and again, like the likes and dislikes that I have about the game in general, just kind of where I hope the game goes in the future, and how all of this ultimately, hopefully, holds up in the totality of what this game is supposed to be, and hopefully can be in the future, right? So, as far as the Server Slam goes, right, my overall opinion on it is pretty solid. Pretty solid. It was good to be able to get back into the game, kind of get our hands on it for that one final time before we did have to wait on the release date. They took a lot of what was available in the technical test out, so a lot of the upgrading and crafting capabilities was taken away, and it felt like the focus itself, and obviously that was the intention of it in general, but the focus itself was to just get people in the game. So we didn't have access to more than one map. We didn't have access to a lot of the crafting. We didn't have access to a lot of the quests, which is all good, all fine, right? The game itself felt like it was a bit more optimized, so it definitely ran a lot better. There were people complaining about a large graphical leap between the technical test and the Server Slam, in the negative direction. I feel like the game as a whole just looks good, right? The game as a whole looks good. It wasn't that big of a difference where I felt like it was super noticeable, but I can understand where there were probably, small places here and there where people could see some big differences and probably had their own complaints. I myself didn't have any major complaint about that. My biggest concerns with games nowadays is that they're not as buggy and that they run perfectly. They run as intended on the type of hardware that I have. So those are my biggest things. They've definitely changed a lot of the UI, the way the UI looked, the way the loadouts worked. Definitely got some sprite and icon updates, so a lot of the stuff didn't look the same, from how the augments, how the inventory itself looked. One of the major changes I seen was that they went from 2 safe pocket slots to 1. That I think that was maybe because of I don't want to say a complaint, but probably people just talking about, it provides way too much reward with not enough risk type deal. And so now that we're down to 1 safe pocket slot, you're being very meticulous about what you want to go in that slot. So that was one of the big changes. And like I said, we talked about the maps. We weren't able to play on Buried City or Spaceport anymore. The crafting was very minimized to the level 1 workbench, level 1 gunsmith. The level 1 med station. It's kind of like it gave it enough to where you could do what you needed to do to gear yourself up and get back out there in PvP. And again, it's a server slam. The intention of it is to keep people constantly going in and out of the game, pushing the servers to the capacity that they needed them to. But I feel like for people who really were looking forward to the game, this was more of a chance again to play it some more, because a lot of us have been really, really waiting for it, myself included. I was very excited to get another chance to play it again. I didn't think we were going to be able to. So when they did announce it, it was like, cool, let's get this thing another run. So shout out to them for giving us this opportunity. There was also talks about like a difficulty increase in the robots. I don't think the arcs were any harder. I felt like there were more patrols. There were more arcs out on the field. When the raids would run much later, it seemed like they would throw more arcs out than they used to. So the map would become heavily congested with enemies, also alongside the players. So I feel like in difficulty scale, that's probably what people are referring to. The simple fact that there was probably more enemies out there. It seemed like the robots themselves did kind of up their game on the detection a little too much. Hopefully they tweaked that down a little bit, because they were seeing people at weird angles, very weird angles that they shouldn't be seeing you. And I wish there was not even I wish, right? I take that back, because actually after the server slam, they did release something. They did release a notice about how they were going to change the arcs to not be able to see through bushes, and essentially have a more true to life line of sight, even with the scanners. So it's not going to be as egregious, right? If you're sitting in a bush and they're kind of passing by and they're not directly looking at you, there's no way that they should immediately pick up on your presence if you're not doing anything to essentially check their presence. So, shout out to them on making that change. Let's see what else we got. Moving on to some of my likes, dislikes. I like the weapon and gear system. I like how the weapons are. The Pharaoh, man, is one strong ass weapon. I know that the concept behind it is supposed to be, that one shot, high powered, gun. But it feels way too strong to be as common of a gun. And I feel like the meta is pretty much going to be, whatever else you run, you're going to run a Pharaoh as a backup, right? Just to have that. And if you're not running the Pharaoh, it's going to be the hand cannon. So maybe they make the hand cannon a lot more rarer to be able to get. That would be pretty cool and work itself out. And same thing with the Pharaoh, right? I feel like the Pharaoh needs kind of to be pushed more to the end of, hey, this weapon isn't commonly found, but when it is found, it's something that you want to be able to keep around to utilize in most situations. It takes down most arcs in one hit. It takes down most players in 2 shots. You get a headshot, it's knocking out most of their health, and all it's going to take is a quick burst down. So like I said, most people are probably going to run 2 guns with the Pharaoh as the backup, for sure. And maybe what they can do to kind of balance that out is maybe make heavy ammo a lot more harder to find, or a little bit more rare. Obviously, we don't know the full extent of all the guns that we're going to have available. So there might be some guns that make the Pharaoh really not shit, and we're just obviously experiencing as low level possible of what the game could be. So, just initial thoughts, right? And then obviously that changes with shield level. Purple and blue shield level obviously are going to change how good the Pharaoh may work long term for the game. So I ain't get too much interaction in playing against people during the technical tests with the Pharaoh and seeing how well it fared against the blue and purple shield. But obviously, again, with the green shield, it feels very, very strong for what it's worth. So good gun, a little bit overpowered, not too much to really knock off the balance, but I feel like it's for the startup of the game, it's going to be the meta for sure, for sure. As far as loot on the map, man, loot is plentiful, scarily plentiful, and maybe that's balanced out due to the crafting system, the prestige system, questing. Maybe all of that balances itself out, especially with hideout upgrades. That all may work itself out. But as far as right now, it's definitely plentiful, very, very plentiful. There's loot everywhere for you to find. So I don't think that's ever going to be a problem. What else we got? Another thing I like is I love the art direction of the game. It's very reminiscent of like, you know, some Star Wars Rogue One type deal. That late 80s, early 90s kind of aesthetic, but still got that futuristic vibe going. I feel like that's one of the cool parts about this game, and it's how it's marketing itself. So definitely definitely something I like about it. Another thing is, let's see, I got a list here. The sound design. The sound in this game is phenomenal. Fantastic, actually. Probably some of the best sound in modern gaming. The way that you can hear everything clearly. You know when you're hearing footsteps. You know when you're hearing the arc enemies. You know when there's some type of action going on. Like, you know this. There's no, you're not making a mistake. And even while you're hearing all of these different things, you know, you're still able to like hear the environments and stuff. Like, you're able to literally hear everything that's going on, and it doesn't feel like one thing is overpowering the other. The game itself can be very loud. It can be very loud in general, but you're able to hear everything you need to. Far too often when we're playing a lot of these games, man, is you know, you're not being able to hear footsteps, or somebody is being silent when they're not supposed to be silent, or somebody's shooting you and you quite literally have no idea from where. You know, did the soundscape, the way they have the sound set up in this game, phenomenal. And I really need a lot of other games to really take into account the way the sound works in this game, and hopefully, you know, go back to the drawing boards with theirs, man, and get on Arc Raiders level, man. Shout out to Embark, man. Y'all did the sound great. Easily, if I was to give it a rating of 15 out of 10. Easily. Quite easily. What else we got? I like the enemies. I like the way the arcs themselves are set up, the diversity that they have. No one thing is alike. They're all fucking annoying. Like, they're all annoying, can be annoying, even down to the wasp, where you can easily you can get overrun, but it's manageable, but it's still annoying. And because you're getting overran, that can lead to so many other things. It can lead to you making all this noise, and now all the players in the vicinity is coming over to check out what's going on, to probably, you know what I'm saying, third party on you. It could be a situation where you probably are handling the wasp, but all of a sudden 2 hornets are flying by. Now you got to deal with them. So they just up the ante on the difficulty. Or maybe you dealing with the hornets, and now a snitch is coming by, and now he about to call in more hornets and a wasp. It's so easy to both manage and get managed in this game. And like I said, the enemy design themselves are freaking great. I ran into the walker. I can't think of the walker name with the minigun on it. I think it was a basilisk, if I'm not, or bastion. I think it's bastion. I ran into the bastion once. Them things are dangerous. Don't want to mess around with them much more than I need to. Obviously, the leaper, I feel like it's something that can easily be managed if you if you kind of play it right, there's a level of physics in the game where you can kind of take advantage of the leaper. So it's not too much of a threat, but it can easily become a bigger threat if you, again, go back to the conversation about the wasp and being overran by all the other enemies. It can easily become a bigger problem than what it is. The same thing for the queen. I dabbled with the queen maybe once or twice in terms of just trying to do the harvester mini activity, and that thing right there is scary. And they're supposed to be bigger ones than the queen. So, man, I'm really excited about what that may mean overall. So, looking forward to what that's going to be like, man. I'm really looking forward to what that's going to be like. So let's move on, man, to some of my dislikes. I know it's part of the game. I know it's part of the game, and I know that a lot of people kind of accept the cards that are dealt when it comes to this type of game, but corner camping, bro. Corner camping. Corner camping in third person game modes is it's always and forever will be a problem. There's not a third person game out where corner camping isn't a thing to an extent, right? So it's a gripe. It's obviously something that I'm gonna be taking advantage of in certain situations. It's obviously something that's gonna be taking advantage of me in certain situations. But there's also kind of a hidden thing behind it that was kind of experienced earlier in the video, that's not too much talked about. But with third person mode, you may think you're behind a corner that you're actually not behind, right? And that is going to be because of two things. It's going to be because of latency and network, and obviously, again, the third person camera. There's been many situations where on my screen I'm around the corner, but obviously on their screen I had to be in view enough, or my body had to be enough in view for them to get the hit off, and I'll like go down or die. So it's definitely something that is a is a gripe of mine. But you kind of you roll with the punches with it, man, and you just understand that that's going to be part of the game, and you manage it the best way you can, and try not to be on the receiving end of somebody waiting around the corner. It's going to happen, though. It's going to happen. We can't deny it. You won't be able to fully avoid it for the lifespan of the game. It's going to happen, right? Just try to deal with it the best you can. So it's a dislike of mine, but it's not enough, obviously, to sway me from the game. It's just annoying, and I wish there was maybe a better way to deal with it. And I think there are third person games out there that have found a way to kind of deal with the idea of corner camping. But they don't have like a system like where like in Call of Duty, you can't do like emotes and stuff to like peek around corners. You know, it's no crazy stuff like that. If they've seen you around the corner, it's because they were sitting there and they seen you. You know, so that's that on there. Animation lock. This is a shooting game. It's a game where movement matters the most, and there are situations where if you're getting hit or you're stumbling or I know it's part of the idea behind the Hornets. When you get shot, you're just supposed to stay there. I know it's the idea behind, you're getting electrocuted, you're not supposed to be able to move. But being animation locked in some of these situations in a shooting game quite literally spells death. There's no way to avoid essentially taking the free damage that you're going to get while you're being animation locked due to certain things. Now, luckily, you're not animation locked during like breaking into stuff, right? You can cancel pry and open stuff at any time that you want. Um, which is something that I was heavily scared about, because in a lot of games that's considered like something where you commit to it and you just got to go through with it until it's done type deal. So luckily it's not on everything, but on the things that can on the things and in certain situations where it can heavily determine the outcome of a fight. That's kind of where my problem lies with it. And again, these are certain things that I know that's never going to change about the game, but they're my dislikes, right? They're just things I dislike about what the game. It can't be. I feel like something can be both perfect and still have its own imperfections within it. And I feel like this is a great game, easily a 9 out of 10 for me. But even with some of these dislikes, it's not the reason that it's not a 10 out of 10 for me, right? The dislikes aren't even heavily weighing it down from being a higher tiered game. It's just these are like personal gripes. So what else we got? Two things. So I want to quickly get through these. The revived. You can't revive random people who are down without a defibrillator. And I felt like I've ran into situations where I was running solo and I probably did down a guy, probably kind of talked it out and was like, you know what, man, if I could, I'd pick you back up. And vice versa, where I probably was doing something like I was probably running a free loadout and I told the guy, hey, look, I'm just trying to get some loot to get back in the game, and they were like, well, my bad, bro. If I could, I'd pick you back up. I don't think that you should need a defibrillator to bring randoms back up if you don't need a defibrillator to bring your teammates back up. Integrally, the system is already there for you to just pick them up without it. So why do you need it to pick up somebody who is essentially random? I feel like that's a misstep in designing how you want the interactions of the game to go, because in situations where you're not necessarily partied up and you do come across some people that you do want to party up with, if they do go down for whatever reason, then you should be able to pick them up as needed without you needing to have a defibrillator. So hopefully that's something they do change, tweak, or do whatever. If not, again, it's not a deal breaker. It would just be more annoying than it is a problem. It's just an annoyance. And maybe it does come down to the idea that if you have if they're not on your team, then you wouldn't be able to knock them out, because those are both tied to the same key, the same action key. Maybe if you don't require the defibrillator, maybe give 2 keys. So, you use the action key to pick them up, and then maybe make the melee key the key to actually knock them out while they're down. And that gives us more options in those scenarios where you're running into random people, and again, you're creating more of a real world experience than it always having to be a structured experience of, because I didn't bring in the defibrillator this raid, I can't pick up this random guy who's decided to help me try to kill this large enemy. So something I don't like, and hopefully they change. I actually hope they change that. Hopefully they change that. Another thing was the topic of difficulty versus annoyance in the game. This goes back to like people talking about that they felt like the server slam was much harder than the technical test, and it goes back to that conversation when I talked about the enemies as a whole, about how wasps can turn into hornets, and then hornets making the situation much worse than it already is when you're already dealing with the wasp. And then how wasps themselves can continuously turn a situation into something much larger. All of these things I don't feel are necessarily a difficulty thing and more of an annoyance. It's more of an annoyance in conversation than it is to say this game is just outright difficult. So I want to say I'm part of the group to say I feel like the game is very well balanced for what it's trying to do. Nothing felt like it was overly hard or overly complicated to get through. Even when dealing with something like the Leaper or something like the Bastion or even the Queen, there you understand and have an idea that it's going to take a lot to deal with these much larger enemies. And with that taking a lot, it's going to take a lot more ammo. It's going to take a lot better weapons. It's going to take a lot better gear as a whole. You're not running in trying to kill the Queen with a green shield and expecting expecting to get it on your first try. Some of the Queen shit takes out your shield and your health quite literally instantly because of how little it is. Versus the blue shield and the purple shield, obviously going to take a lot more damage, allowing you to do a lot more and maybe survive a lot more when you're facing those much harder enemies. It goes back to the difficulty part. A lot of these things won't be as difficult because you have the gear to deal with the problem. And maybe that changes overall with how the arc enemies maybe change across the other maps that we're going to have access to. But that's all left to be seen and obviously experience before anybody can fully say, hey, this game is hard or this game is too difficult for me. So I would definitely say everybody, be more fair in giving it a shot and understanding what is actually difficult about the game versus you're just annoyed with how you got to deal with the game. So that's definitely a conversational piece that I wanted to kind of put out there and just really have a chat about. Let's see, we're breaking a minute. So the kind of couple things I want to wrap up on, man, and then get us out of here, because this is kind of stretching into a large piece of time. And shout out to anybody who stayed, listened to my thoughts on all of this. Y'all the real ones. The last few pieces I want to hit on, man, is talking about the season pass, battle pass, and possible microtransactions that may or may not happen. So we know that we're getting seasons. We know that we're getting seasons in Arc Raiders. They've already confirmed it, and how that it may work is left up to it actually happening. The idea of the battle pass, it's already within the game, but it's kind of different, where doing certain challenges gives you access to these coins that unlock gear and cosmetics, and it doesn't seem overpowered. It doesn't seem like something that's going to be very overpowered. It seems like that's some intermittent, and because of the type of game it is, it's not going to say that you win, right? A lot of games who do these type of things kind of have you unlock this, now you have this advantage over everybody, and it is what it is. Whereas like for the Server Slam, when you did the challenges and you got enough coins, you were able to buy a case that gave you access to a silencer for your weapon. All right, cool. You can put that silencer on your weapon, but that silencer isn't you winning your next gunfight with another raider. And now that you died, guess who's getting that silencer? So I feel like that type of system can work within itself and not be an actual problem to the integrity of the game. I'm not, look, I hate pay to win mechanics in any game. I feel like majority of gamers are with me. Majority of multiplayer gamers are with me when I say I hate any pay to win mechanic. Everything that you get from the game should be achieved from playing the game. you know. And in terms of how these challenges are orchestrated, some of them make sense to actually have you follow through with to achieve it within the game, to gain the points, to be able to unlock the stuff, to be able to use it in the game. And whether or not you survive with that same stuff, it's still up to the game. You know, it's not giving you an inherent advantage. It's giving you something that is going to allow you to play the game differently. Having that silencer doesn't mean that my gun does more damage than somebody else's gun. Having that silencer means that when I'm probably shooting the robots in an area, my shots are much silent, obviously more silent, so they're not going to be able to, you know, audibly track me down a lot better than it would be if I didn't have that silencer on it. But he can still kill me. We still have the same bullet damage, possible gear pieces, and everything to take each other out. Now, if that scales much higher, right, then it becomes a problem within itself. It's like it can eat itself. If they start giving you purple gear, you know, gear that, like, say for instance, you're doing all of these challenges and then it gives you purple armor, then it becomes problematic. Does it become an instant advantage? Yes. Does it mean you're going to win? No. It becomes a pay to win problem if they start allowing you to essentially buy out those points or buy out these challenges to skip tiers, to get to these higher levels, to get the bigger and bigger packages. Some screenshots have been released of what some of these pages already look like, and again, most of it just looks cosmetic. Most of it still looks like it's going to be those cases that probably give you maybe 2 or 3 items to help you within the raid. But again, it's not something that's giving you an outright ability to win something. So it's one of those iffy, wishy-washy things. I can understand some people saying that's pay to win. I can understand some people trying to argue that it's not pay to win because it still doesn't necessarily give you the win. You know, it doesn't give you the win outright. And like I said, with the seasons thing, seasons is whatever. I'm cool with it. It gives more longevity to these games. A lot of these games nowadays are obviously games and services. So, you know, that's that on that. Same thing with microtransactions. Hopefully all microtransactions in this game are purely cosmetic. Anything more than that, bro, we start tapping into the territory of probably backing away from this game, you know. So that's pretty much my thoughts on everything, man. The only thing I didn't really talk about in the longevity was the game going from free to play to buy to play. But I feel like that taps into the idea of them wanting to be able to support the game long term, and having it free to play, yes, may give access to more players, but it doesn't guarantee the player base that they may want, you know. So with this model, we're guaranteed the company to get money for the game that we like. We can continuously enjoy it, and they can use that to ultimately continue to make the game better, have future DLC, continue supporting the game longer term, right? So I'm all for it becoming buy to play rather than being a free to play title. But that's it, man. That's it. We are wrapping up here at just under 40. I wanted it more condensed, and it actually is going to be more condensed on you guys' end. On my end, it's much longer, but on you guys' end, it's going to be a little more condensed because I'm gonna chop some of the beginning out before we really got into the thick of it. I wasn't gonna do a script thing with this one, but I also didn't know how to really, I guess, mentally get into the mindset of making just the recording and then going from there. I think I have an idea of something. So going forward, my videos might be a little different, right? But I think I have an idea of how to do this going forward. But yeah, man, again, shout out to anybody who stuck through the video. I appreciate all y'all love and support, man. If you're buying a game, let me know how you feel about some of the things that I like. What are some of the things that you liked and disliked? Let me know down in the comments below. Are you buying it? If you are, man, look, I'm going to have as much as I can put out there. I may not be as big as the biggest YouTube content creator, but man, everybody got to start somewhere. And I feel like Arc Raiders is a game that I really want to put a lot into. I really like talking about. I really enjoy the game. I love extraction shooters. I'm a big fan of Tarkov, but I understand the nerves that kind of come with Tarkov. I can't have that, I guess, weight off my shoulders the way that I can have with a game like Arc Raiders, and still get that same excitement, that same rush of wanting to go back in over and over and play again. So, again, man, shout out to you guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. I would appreciate anything and everything, man. Also, please, man, let me know how you guys feel about the video model. If you guys would like kind of like this model moving forward, I think I fucks with it. So y'all might fuck with it too. It allows me to be more genuine. I don't like the idea of doing the whole script thing, but sometimes scripts work because sometimes you got to be professional, man. Sometimes you do. So it is what it is on that, man. I'm not going to hold you guys any longer. Look, I appreciate everybody who stuck around again. I'm going to be out there day one. I'm going to be streaming. So stay tuned for that. I will catch y'all later, man. Y'all be safe. Be easy. Peace out.